Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling strangely guilty even though you did nothing wrong? Have you ever met someone who smiled while slowly draining your confidence? Someone who knew exactly which emotional buttons to press? The terrifying part is this: most manipulative does not arrive wearing a villain's face. It arrives disguised as love, as concern, as charm, as attention. And sometimes the most dangerous psychological games are played by people who know your heart better than you do. I am Goswami, psychologist and best-selling author. Tonight we are stepping into hidden world of dark psychology, not to become manipulative, but to understand the silent wars happening inside human behavior every single day. Because once you learn how emotional manipulation works, you stop becoming easy to control. Dark psychology is not magic, it is observation. It is art of understanding fear, insecurity, loneliness, desire, ego, and emotional hunger. Manipulators study human emotions the way hunters study movement in the forest. They notice your need for validation, your fear of abandonment, your habits of apologizing too quickly, your silence when something hurts you, and then they build emotional traps around those weaknesses. Think about the last time someone made you question your own memory. They said, "That never happened. You are overreacting. You are too sensitive." Slowly, your confidence began collapsing from the inside. That is not ordinary disagreement. That is psychological erosion. And the frightening thing is, many people experience it for years without realizing they are being manipulated. Because emotional control rarely begins with aggression, it begins with confusion. A manipulator does not always try to dominate your body, they try to dominate your perception. Once they control how you interpret reality, they control your emotions, and once they control your emotions, they control your decisions. But here is something uncomfortable most people never admit. Manipulators are not always evil masterminds. Sometimes they are deeply wounded people who learned survival through control. A child ignored emotionally may grow into an adult who manipulates for attention. A person betrayed repeatedly may learn to weaponize guilt. Someone terrified of losing power may lose fear to keep others emotionally dependent. Pain, when left unhealed, can become manipulation. This is why understanding dark psychology also requires compassion without becoming naive. Because wisdom is not blind trust, wisdom is seeing clearly. One of the most dangerous human weaknesses is emotional urgency. When people are lonely, they trust too quickly. When people fear rejection, they ignore red flags. When people desperately want love, they refuse intensity with sincerity. And manipulators know this. They know emotionally exhausted people are easier to influence. That is why mental defense begins with emotional awareness. The moment you become conscious of your own insecurities, you become harder to control. Notice who always makes you feel guilty for having boundaries. Notice who only respects you when you agree with them. And notice who disappears when you stop being useful. Real love does not require psychological warfare. Real connection does not leave you emotionally shattered every night. And perhaps the deepest lesson of all, not every battle deserves your explanation. Some people are committed to understanding you because confusion gives them power. Silence becomes dangerous when you use it to suppress yourself. But silence becomes powerful when you stop feeding manipulation. Imagine your mind as a house. Every insult, every betrayal, every manipulation is like leaving the door unlocked for emotional intruders. For years, many people live this way, allowing toxic voices to move freely inside their thoughts. You are not enough. You will never find better. No one else will understand you. And eventually, the manipulator's voice becomes your inner voice. That is the true damage of psychological manipulation. It does not just hurt your emotions, it rewrites your insecurity. It rewrites your identity. But healing begins the moment you recognize this. You are allowed to protect your peace without feeling guilty. You are allowed to walk away from emotional chaos. You are allowed to stop shrinking yourself to keep manipulative people comfortable. Because mental defense is not cruelty, it is self respect. And sometimes the strongest person in the room is not the loudest one, but the one who can recognize emotional poison without drinking it. Dark psychology teaches us something deeply unsettling about human nature. Not everyone who understands emotions uses that knowledge to heal. Some use it to control, some use it to dominate, some use it to fill emptiness inside themselves. But your awareness changes everything. Once you learn to observe patterns instead of excuses, once you trust your intuition instead of your fear, and once you stop abandoning yourself for acceptance, manipulation loses its grip on you. Practice your mind carefully, my friends, because in a world where many people know how to influence emotions, clarity becomes a form of survival. And maybe the greatest form of power is not controlling others at all. Maybe it is finally becoming impossible to control. Remember, my friends, manipulation begins the moment someone teaches you to doubt your own reality. The most dangerous people are not those who break your heart, but those who slowly rewrite your mind. Emotional intelligence without morality becomes psychological warfare. Mental defense is not building walls against the world, it is learning who deserves access to your inner peace. Thank you very much, and be careful about your identity and the manipulation of people.